So let's move on. Obviously we talked. There's a few position battles that we're interested in. We obviously know, Debo and Ayuk, if are healthy, that's our, two wide receivers on the outside. Obviously, we got Kittle there. But that wide receiver 3 position seems to be wide open. That was a position held by Kendrick Bourne, who's no longer, with the team. So it's an important position. Obviously, Kendrick Bourne did a lot for the team in the years that he was here in that wide receiver 3 position. So looking at who the wide receivers are left on the roster, who do you think is going to emerge and really lock down that third position on the wide receiver core?
Yeah, and this isn't this is a hard one, honestly, because we're trying to project the most crowded position that the 49ers have, quite frankly.
Right.
But the guy I like for this, and if there was some sort of bet I could make on this on a sports book, I think I would look into it. Juwan Jennings. And I'll tell you why specifically is that I think the 49ers need that slot receiver. I think that's what they're looking for with this third wide receiver specifically. And Jennings, if you look at what people said if you actually go to Tennessee's website, their athletic website, when they were describing what he was for the NFL draft, they described him as a big-bodied slot receiver. Sounds like exactly what the 49ers need right now. And in his career, Juwan Jennings at Tennessee was really an excellent playmaker for them. And that last season that he played, he caught 59 catches, right? And he had 29 broken tackles on those 59 catches. And then within that, he had 17 20-plus yard plays. So he's an explosive yak-type playmaker. And he kind of just, I feel like, fits the mold of what we expect from 49ers wide receivers and what Kyle wants out of his wide receivers. And then I always go back to this, Sunil. I'm a college student now. I started college before the pandemic started. By the time I graduated, it might not be over. For these guys who had to go into this season without having a normal offseason, being rookies for the first time, being a 7th-round pick, to me, that must have been an incredibly hard adjustment to the NFL. So not that I want to give all the rookies a pass, right? But I think there's a certain level of understanding that you expect these guys to be much more comfortable next season, especially. So I think with Juwan Jennings, right? He's 6'3", he's 220, he's a big guy. I think he has big potential in this offense. And then, I joke about this a little bit, but you saw him at Tennessee throwing some touchdowns too. And we know Kyle Shanahan loves that. And Emmanuel Sanders isn't on the team anymore. Now, listen, we have Mohamed Sanu. I've seen him throw 60-yard bombs. I know he can sling it, but I really do believe in Juwan Jennings' receiving ability. And then I feel like they can even use him in some of those jet sweep type packages, end around sort of things. So I feel like he's sort of the perfect 49ers wide receiver. And if he has developed over this past season, and like Grant was reporting at the beginning of 49ers rookie camp, he was practicing with the ones. So it certainly seems like the opportunity is there for him. I just wonder if he's going to be able to take full advantage of it, because there are a lot of veterans on this team.
Right. And, there are a lot of veterans on the team, but not so much at the wide receiver position, right? So that's a pretty young crew.
Well, and even the vets they do have, man, they're all like kind of washed up guys. Let's be honest. It's your Travis Benjamins, Mohamed Sanu's, guys who haven't been catching a lot of balls in the last few years.
Yeah, and I think, consensus is if Jalen Hurd is healthy at all, that he's going to be that wide receiver 3. But I don't know. Obviously, I'm assuming he's going to be injured because I've never seen him healthy, right? But I look at what the 49ers need in that wide receiver 3 position, right? We already have the Yak boys, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. We got the Yak boys, right? We do need a big possession receiver. So when you talk about Juwan Jennings, I understand that point of view as far as why he would be a great person to put in that wide receiver 3 position. Somebody a big body that could go down the middle and just, catch the ball, go up and get a ball with his catch radius, so on and so forth. Also, somebody that could be a big target in the red zone, especially with, George Kittle not necessarily being such a big red zone option, and both Debo and Ayuk being more finesse type wide receivers than the guys that are going to just be, the big body slant type guys. So but the one thing that I maybe differ with you as far as why I think it's going to be a different player is another thing that's a common denominator in the wide receiver core is both Ayuk and Debo are extremely young, right? So I think wisdom is going to be something that's needed in that wide receiver 3 position. And a lot of the reports that are coming out seem to be tipping off the hand as far as who that wide receiver 3 is going to be. And that's Mohamed Sanu. You look at it, initially he was working out with Trey Lance. Interesting, right? The first receiver he's working out with is Mohamed Sanu. 2, all of a sudden, all these reports are coming out about who's the most healthy, best shape of his life, so on and so forth, Mohamed Sanu.
I love those reports. They're I'm sorry, Zay. I love those best shape of my life reports. It's every 15 players have them in the offseason. But right. No, it's good to point out. Mohamed's, listen, I'm sorry I'm cutting you off, but Mo Sanu is the guy I would have chosen if I didn't choose Juwan Jennings. Really.
Right. And if you think about who is most familiar with Kyle Shanahan's offense, out of everybody on the receiving core, it's Mo Sanu, right? He's been in the system the longest, coming from his years with the 49ers or with Kyle Shanahan with the Falcons, right? So even more than Ayuk, even more than Debo, Sanu has that understanding of the offense. And I think he's just going to be the elder statesman in that wide receiver room. He's going to be the leader. He's going to be the mentor. And to have him be on the field, to be able to lead by example, I think is going to be invaluable. Not to mention, he fits what the 49ers don't have. They need that guy that could do the gadget plays as far as being the quarterback on, the wide receiver quarterback that throws that end around play. And also, I think he's going to be
Mohamed Sanu. I'm sorry, I just want to say, I've seen Mohamed Sanu throw 60-yard balls. The dude can freaking sling it, like seriously. No joke.
I think this stage in his career, he understands where he's at. He's not looking to be the top guy, right? He knows he doesn't have it anymore to be the top guy. So for him to fill in that third role and be a guy who is going to basically specialize in red zone opportunities, I think is going to be huge. He knows that he could get, 6 to 10 touchdowns this season, just being a guy that comes in during the red zone, being the big body that, Jada Trey Lance or Jimmy Garoppolo could just throw it up in his general direction, and he could just out jump whoever the corner is because they're going to be much smaller than what he is. And he's going to be more open than he's ever been just because the corners, the defense is going to be playing towards Ayuk, towards Debo. So he's going to get the most one-on-ones, the most a linebacker that's guarding him, so on and so forth. So I expect he could have a pretty decent year. And I believe he's just a shoo-in for that wide receiver 3 position, just because out of everybody on that roster, even in Juwan Jennings being there, he just gives a different look that those other receivers don't have. And I think that's what the wide receiver 3 position really needs.
Yeah, and the one guy who I kind of feel bad for, honestly, is Richie James Jr., because I don't think he's going to be that wide receiver 3, but I think he kind of should be. Like, I think Kyle Shanahan doesn't like having Richie James Jr. have a lot of balls. But no, I agree with you with Mohamed Sanu. I think, to me, I don't think it's going to be a clear wide receiver 3. I feel like by the end of the season, it'll be a sort of the thing where for specific games, Kyle plays one receiver more than the other, right? Or if there's an injury to Debo or Ayuk, one of those guys is going to come in. But with Mohamed Sanu versus Juwan Jennings specifically, I agree with you that I think it's more Mohamed Sanu's job to lose more than, rather than Juwan Jennings' job to lose. I think, if anything, Juwan Jennings would have to clearly outperform him to the point where it's undeniable, right? Whereas Mohamed Sanu has that veteran presence. He has that experience with Kyle Shanahan, and I'm sure he has a lot of experience with the system, of course, but with the coaching staff as well. So I'm sure that's going to go a long way. And then he's been here already. He's been with this team. It's just he was there, for like 3 games, right? But that was just because of injuries and that was so late in the season, and that was kind of that kind of move. But before we do move on to our next thing, Sunil, I want to ask you this, and sorry if I'm taking over your show a little, but I got a question that I've been writing a little bit about is, outside of the Yak Bros, do you think that wide receiver 3 will get the most targets, or do you feel like there's another player in the offense who is going to be 4th on the target list, because I don't know if it's going to be wide receiver 3.
Are you saying outside of are you considering the Yak Boys with Kittle or without Kittle?
Without Kittle. So in terms
I mean,
of
it's obviously Kittle's going to get more than the wide receiver 3 as far as
no. What I'm saying, Sunil, is outside of those 3 guys, Ayuk,
okay.
Kittle. Yeah,
I mean, probably. So I think it depends. I mean, I think the wide receiver 3 is going to be played extremely strategic, especially if they put in a guy like Sanu. I think he's going to be there for red zone, and if they're picking up short yardage on a first down, I think they are going to utilize and get have that player get a lot of touches, because if you think about it, with Bourne, he did catch a lot of balls compared to the other 2 receivers. Now, maybe that was more injuries than anything, but they do utilize that wide receiver 3 in a way where they're going to be a productive player. Maybe a running back is going to get more targets, but
I was going to throw out Kyle Juszczyk. That's the one that I think is interesting.
Yeah, but at least we've seen him in the offense for so many years that it would just be a change, right? I don't see Kyle Shanahan changing that much as far as utilizing Juszczyk. I think Juszczyk will get a few more handoffs, but I don't know if he's going to be used more in the passing game, just because he's they use him primarily in the running game. But going back to your Richie James comment, I think Richie James is going to see a lot of playing time, but not as the wide receiver 3. He's going to be the next man up in case an Ayuk or a Debo gets injured, because he plays the same type of way, right? Exactly. He can be utilized on those jet sweeps. When he was showcased in that one game that all the receivers were injured, or I think that was the game against Green Bay where everybody was down because of COVID or whatnot, and Richie James was able to be showcased. He had a great game. So I believe if he does make the team, like Pinor says, because, that is, I don't know, who knows how many receivers are they going to carry over. But if he does make the team, I think he might not play as the 3rd off the bench, but he's going to play the first time a Debo or an Ayuk gets injured, just because I don't think they have that many players that could just seamlessly fit into those positions. So that's where I see Richie James coming in.
So I have one more wide receiver question real quick. Do you think Travis Benjamin is going to make this team?
I mean, he opted out last season, right? So it's not that he was injured. So he might be fresh. He might be healthy. I mean, I think once again, he's probably what Ayuk was. Like, I think they got him thinking that he could play that Ayuk type role. But now they have Ayuk, who's much better than Benjamin at what they want Benjamin to be. So maybe, I mean, it depends. Obviously, if Hurd is healthy, he's making the team. Sanu's making the team. So already that's 4. Are they going to carry 6 or are they going to carry 7? Because if they carry 6, that means there's only 2 more positions. And so probably one of those guys that they brought in to be a kick returner, whether it's River Craycraft or that guy that they just signed, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but that's probably that person's probably making the team. So that leaves 1 position left for 3 or 4 guys that possibly could make a team somewhere else,
Right, and that's the thing with Travis Benjamin. I feel like I don't know how much he's going to offer, but I think the one thing where maybe people are tripping up a little bit with Benjamin is I think he could really offer some decent special teams work. I think that could be really interesting too. And the 49ers return has been garbage for the last 4 years. So anything we can get from him, Ambry Thomas, I mean, anyone at this point, really, just anyone, right? So, and I know Grant's talked about it before too. Start playing Ayuk more, at least a few times. Like, you can't just shelve him away like that. That frustrates me. But sorry if I'm getting a little off topic.
Yeah, I would love, that's obviously a different topic, but I would love to see Ayuk used the way Philly used to use Deshaun Jackson. When they need a home run, put him back there and see what he could do, right? So I think that's the way. I understand why they don't use him every single time, because that's just wear and tear on a guy that you want to keep fresh and healthy throughout the season. But, when you need a moment, when you need a wow play, you got to throw Ayuk back there and give him a chance to see what he can do.
Why not 1 or 2 kick returns per game? That's all I'm saying, where it's a 4th quarter situation or they just scored going into half, something like that, where like you're saying in the Deshaun Jackson role, where they can really take full advantage because, dude, Ayuk is electric in open space.
We've seen it, you know, in flashes last season. So it would be great to see.